Marcelinho. Been on the honor roll, sculptures of my body out in Nagano. My shorty features like Madonna. I didn't like that one. Yeah. Line for line. Straight up lambs on the arm. Giambi lenses. Ken Caminiti. Bosworth. Been on the honor roll, sculptures of my body out in Nagano. My shorty features like Madonna, low designer. Been in these young Lola Falanas over ace to test. Base the breast with the juices. Under the influence of fly shit, I glide like Ovechkin. Discus hoodie, puff hibiscus.
Hello and welcome to episode 9 of the History Boys Abroad podcast. My name's Graham, here as always with my co-host Tony.
How you doing?
You sound a bit worse for wear. What's up?
Nah, just a little bit locked up and a bit of a cold or something, but I'm alright.
Are you going to weather the weather for tonight's game?
Yeah, I'm just looking out the window now and it's torrential rain. It's only just started in the south side here, next to Hampden.
Nice.
But I'll just be wearing a waterproof jacket. I'm going to be walking from Duke Street to the stadium because I'm meeting my friend for a pint up there first.
Cool.
So a half an hour walk in the rain, but looking forward to it later on anyway.
Nice. So this week's episode is going to be similar to one that we did a couple of weeks ago, where we're going to have like the first half being the history part, a little preview for tonight's game, and then after tonight's game we're going to do a kind of instant reaction to it. So
reaction, a review of what we think.
Exactly.
Opinions.
Yeah, exactly. So as you would have noticed on the button when you downloaded, tonight's episode is going to be on the 1984 clash between Celtic and Rapid Vienna.
Yeah.
So obviously for a lot of people, I don't know, I was 2 years old at the time, I think you were the same. For a lot of people, a lot of Celtic fans get a bit upset about this game. I had never really felt it because I wasn't really aware of the finer details, but after researching this, Rapid Vienna are fucking arseholes.
I have to agree. I've been to an Atletico Madrid game quite recently and I took a lot of abuse from Celtic fans because of the treatment that we suffered from Atletico when we played them many years ago, and I was told I was this and that, and I was like, well, they're a local team, and I went to see them with my friend who was visiting, whatever.
Aye.
So I don't really understand that, but obviously with the Rapid thing, I was 2 and the same as you. I didn't really understand the aggression and the pain and the anguish, but now I do, and as you say, they're fucking dicks.
Aye.
So
the Germans call the Austrians valley shitters, and I think it really applies to these bastards.
Yeah.
So I guess we should give some background to like maybe how Celtic were performing in the league at that time. I think you've got a few things down for that.
The season before, throughout this period, Aberdeen were kind of at almost the height of their dominance. They had recently won the European Cup Winners' Cup, which is the tournament we are going to be talking about. They had won the league the season. So we're talking about 1984-85 season here. The season before, 83-84, Aberdeen won the league. Celtic came second. I think we were second, 7 points behind on 50 points. So 7 points behind Aberdeen, and Rangers were further down. The manager was Davy Hay, who was obviously one of the Quality Street gang kids, and he was the manager for about 5 years in the 80s.
Before McNeil.
Took over in 87-88. As I say, Aberdeen won the league the season in question, and Celtic beat Dundee United to win the Scottish Cup 2-1 at Hampden. So the season in question, which is the 84-85 season, Celtic won the Scottish Cup against Dundee United 2-1 at Hampden. So that was the season in question. And the season before that, what was the Scottish Cup result the season before that?
Well, we actually we played second fiddle to Aberdeen twice, so not only in the league, but we actually beat off them in the cup final. But because Aberdeen had won the league and were going into the European Cup, we took the Cup Winners' Cup place.
Yeah, so it was kind of passed down.
Aye.
Right, yeah, that makes sense. The squad that we had, the approximate squad that we had, it was kind of difficult to find this information out. The squad that we had in the 84-85 season was Willie McStay, Tom McAdam, Pierce O'Leary, Pat Bonner, Roy Aiken, Tommy Burns, Brian McClare, Paul McStay. So we had brothers playing for us at that point, which was pretty rare. Davy Provan, Mo Johnston, Danny McGrain, Frank McGarvey, Murdo McLeod and Peter Grant. So it's an all-Scottish side. I think Pierce O'Leary might be Irish, I'm not entirely sure. Pat Bonner as well. Well, Pierce O'Leary's almost certainly Irish. Pat Bonner obviously, but it's an all-English speaking squad, which is completely unusual in these times.
Aye. And just to give a kind of bit of colour on Rapid Vienna as well, they'd finished the season before second. They lost the Austrian Bundesliga by 3 goals, so they lost it in goal difference to Austria Vienna, and that season they'd only conceded 18 goals, and they qualified by winning the Austrian Cup.
They only conceded 18 goals?
Aye, the whole season. So I mean, they were coming into this on a bit of form, like they had some chops. That was at this point they'd already won 27 Austrian league titles and 10 Austrian Cups. And maybe a little known fact, because of the German expansion, should we say, in the mid 1900s, they actually won the German Bundesliga in 1941, and the DFB Pokal, which is obviously the German Cup, they won that in 1938. So probably one of the only teams in the world to win league titles outside their own country. So
that's good digging. That's what it's about, man. In the 84-85 season, to give the full a little bit of context, Celtic toured Ireland in the pre-season. They played Bohemians, Finn Harps and Dundalk, who were playing in the Champions League last night, as we all know. And they beat Batty 3-0, so they're going to be in European football until Christmas at least, and we could get them if we win tonight. Anyway, in this pre-season tournament, we drew 1 and won 2, and in the 1984 season, Celtic took up shirt sponsorship for the first time.
C.R. Smith was it?
C.R. Smith, Fife-based double glazing firm with their logo emblazoned on the front of the team jersey.
When I think of Celtic, it's always C.R. Smith. I think it's just because that was the first sponsorship I saw,
Yeah, and then the one after that was People's.
Aye, that's right.
Maybe People's or Ford or something like that.
I think it was Ford. People's at Ford or something like that.
Because it was like a car company.
It was ugly.
Yeah, I don't think Celtic won the league. They hadn't won the league since 1981-82, but we won the league the following season.
We won, we'd won the league 85. Twice in a row at the beginning of the 80s because we qualified for the European Cup. We were in the European Cup in 81-82 and 82-83.
Yeah.
So I'll maybe give a bit of context on what we'd done in Europe in recent years. In 80-81 we were in the Cup Winners' Cup and we actually went out in the first round to a team called Politehnica Timisoara, who is a Romanian team.
Yeah.
The next year we were in the European Cup, as I said, again out in the first round, lost 2-1 to Juventus. We went a bit further the next year. We beat Ajax 5-4 in aggregate and then lost to Real Sociedad 3-2.
Okay.
The season before this we were in the UEFA Cup. We beat AGF of Denmark.
Yeah.
We beat Sporting Lisbon 5-2 in aggregate. And we then went on to lose against Brian Clough's Nottingham Forest 2-1 on aggregate. So it was a bit of a mixed bag. I mean, we weren't really getting that far. Rapid Vienna were kind of similar. They'd been in the European Cup twice in recent years. They'd actually, the season before, they'd got past 2 rounds and were beaten by, do you have any idea?
No.
Dundee United.
Aye. They were also doing quite well in the 80s.
Exactly. Yeah, they were in about the European competitions and stuff.
They were in that. Yeah. One wee thing to add to the Sporting game, it was 5-2 in aggregate, but it was 2-0 in Lisbon and 5-0 at Celtic Park.
That's right. Yeah.
And the manager of in the UEFA Cup, and the manager of Sporting Lisbon, Joseph Vengelos.
Oof.
Joseph Vengelos.
You never added the doctor.
Dr. Joe Vengelos. Maybe he wasn't a doctor by this point. Maybe that was added. One of those honorary doctors.
Maybe. So I guess that takes us into the European campaign. We played Rapid in the second round, but we'd already played obviously a game
Ghent.
before that against Ghent. Yeah. At the same time, Rapid were playing Besiktas. So have you got anything on the Celtic Ghent game?
No, I have nothing on that game. You?
I've got a few brief notes. The team that played in the first game was Bonner, McGrain, Reid, Aitken, McAdam, McLeod, Grant, Paul McStay, McClare and Burns and McGarvey.
Well, it seems like our strongest team at that time. I think in one of the games, Danny McGrain got Frank McGarvey got injured in one of the games, so Alan McInally was, I his replacement, and then when Danny McGrain was injured, Willie McStay took his place.
That's right, yeah. So in that first game we got beat 1-0, but looking at the old newspaper reports, obviously from the ever helpful Celtic Wiki, it looked as if we deserved a draw. They scored with 9 minutes to go, and it was kind of regarded as against the run of play. However, we took them back to Celtic Park. There weren't many changes to the team. Cohen came in, and that's about it. Actually, Cohen came in and Provins came off the bench, and we beat them 3-0. Garvey got a double, and Paul McStay scored in the 89th minute. Apparently that night McGarvey was unplayable.
Mm-hmm.
So that was us into the second round. Rapid, as I said, beat Besiktas 5-2, where Panenka got a hat trick, including 2 penalties.
The Panenka, was this when the penalties became a thing?
No, well, I think the first Panenka was in like an international game in the late 70s, but I'm just wondering if he was always Panenking. I mean, surely he couldn't do it every time.
Where was he from?
He was Czech.
Okay.
So, I mean, do you think he was doing a thing where he would just constantly Panenka and the hope that the goalkeeper would assume that he wouldn't do it again?
Maybe.
He just kept doing it, and the keeper was like, I didn't think he was going to do it that time. But and another goal scorer that you actually brought to my attention would be Kranjčar.
Kranjčar.
Yeah. So who's that guy?
Familiar name. Yeah, he's the guy that plays for the Zombies. His dad was regular in the Rapid games he played in. I think he played against us every time. I didn't grab all the Rapid teams because I wasn't really interested in like their starting 11. It was more to do with the Celtic and what happened because there's a lot to cover. But Nico Kranjčar's dad was one of the players for Rapid during these times, and actually he was also the manager. The older Kranjčar was the manager of Rapid Vienna when we drew with them in 2009.
Is that right?
We drew with them home and away. Is that right? We drew 3-3 in Vienna,
and we drew 1 each at home.
That's right. Jelavic with a double. Marc-Antoine Fortuny had a double. And then 1 each. Jelavic again at Parkhead and McDonald at Parkhead. So we drew 4 each in aggregate, essentially.
I don't know if we ever mentioned it, but remember when Rangers bought him but didn't pay for him? Do you remember?
I do, aye.
So I guess that takes us into the game. The first game's in Vienna. What have you got on the first game?
Well, let's go through the team that Celtic put out. It was Pat Bonner, McGrain, Mark Reed, Roy Aitken, Willie McStay, Peter Grant, Davy Provan, Paul McStay, Brian McClare, Murdo McLeod, Frank McGarvey. And the first goal was scored. It was a great slalom and run from midfield into defence that no one thought of tackling. And to be honest, the finish, it was a guy called Peter Pickholt, who we're going to have to talk about later on in the podcast. It was an amazing goal, let's be honest. He beat 4 or 5 players. It's kind of slow motion. It's kind of like the goal against Carragandi where Stokes just marched through 4 players in the box and no one thought to tackle.
Aye.
But this one, the guy didn't cut it back. He just pinged it in from a tight angle on the right hand side. And to be honest, Pat Bonner probably could have done better. So that was in the 53rd minute. But it wasn't long after until Celtic scored a very, very good goal from a counter-attack. It was Brian McClare. I think it was it may have been a corner to Rapid, and within 5 touches up the pitch between 3 Celtic players, 5 touches from the corner, from Rapid's corner, the ball was in the net. So the goal was an excellent goal by Brian McClare, and I think that was his 8th or 9th goal of the season by this point.
Aye, that sounds about right, yeah. So that was the 57th minute?
57th minute. So it's an instant reaction from Celtic. We conceded just after the 50th minute, 52, 53 minutes, and within 5 minutes we ran up the park and scored. So as it stands, it's 1 each, and the away goals count, and the aggregate score looks good. And then we concede a free kick to the far left of the goal. It's just kind of beyond the 18-yard line. And our current defensive deficiencies were present in this game as the ball was just looped in. And it's kind of similar to that Astana goal from last week, where the defenders have left a gap of about 6 or 7 feet between them, and a little guy just walks in, just jumps up and headers it into the goal without even having a challenge.
Brilliant.
So it's kind of similar to what we saw last week, but to be honest, it was a pretty decent headed goal. And that was a guy called Lehner. That was 10 minutes after we had equalised.
Yeah.
And then just to say that Alan McInally, who I think was brought on for Frank McGarvey, Alan McInally was brought on because Frank McGarvey took quite a heavy tackle in about the 34th minute, I think. He took a bad tackle and didn't get up for a long time, had to be taken to the side, was brought back on, and then it was clear he was not fit enough to continue the tie. So they brought Alan McInally. I think that's his nickname, Rambo.
Rambo,
he's fierce. Anyway, he came on. He was a replacement striker for Frank McGarvey. I think it might have been his first ever European game for Celtic. Mm-hmm. And he gets sent off in the 73rd minute for a wild tackle. I couldn't find any footage of this. Obviously, this being the first tie, this tie was probably the least, how do we describe it? The least venomous of the three ties. Although it still had its, it kind of peaks in the middle. But the third tie, the one in December, was wild as well. But this one was the softest, if we can call it that. So he was sent off a straight red. Danny McGrain picked up a yellow card in this game and ruled him out of the next game. And then the last goal to make it 3-1, because obviously we were losing 3-1 and we needed the 3-0 to win the game. A guy called Krankel, close range finish near the end. And just to point out, Krankel was actually an extremely prolific striker, and he's regarded as the greatest ever Austrian player. Now, I know that David Alaba is now probably going to get that award because he's winning everything with Bayern Munich, but this guy played for Barcelona like a year or two before. He played for Rapid Vienna against us, and he had a ridiculous scoring record in Barcelona, maybe 34 and 43. And he won the I think it was a UEFA Cup or the Cup Winners' Cup with him. He won the Copa del Rey, and he won the Pichichi, which is the top scorer award.
Nice.
So we were playing against quite a good side, and obviously the fact that they did go to the final. They played Everton in the final of the Cup Winners' Cup, Rapid, and luckily Everton beat them. But we were up against quite a good side, which kind of makes it more difficult to digest, knowing that we won 3-0 at home to overturn. But then UEFA and everything that happened sort of erases the game when we have to do it again.
Aye. It's just I'm looking at this match report here for that first game, and it spends like the full match report talking about the game, but it doesn't mention the last goal until the last sentence where it just says Krankel made it 3-1 just before time, full stop.
That's exactly when I was looking at the newspaper clippings on the Celtic wiki, it was just like the guy had obviously just got pissed off, and that was all he wrote because he managed to give names and times for the rest of them, but it was just a little bit at the end. But one thing that I did notice was that we wore yellow, like canary yellow, special made strips, which we only wore like 2 or 3 times ever in this tie, the first tie in Vienna, the only tie we played in Vienna, because the strip that we had clashed with the Rapid colours. Obviously Rapid were the vertical stripes, which are green and white. So we had to get a special made strip with that. And I made a mistake. I think I said Kranjčar's dad was the manager of Rapid when he played us. I think it was actually the guy called Paco. Again, he scored the goal in this Rapid tie. He was the manager in the UEFA Cup game under Mowbray in 2009. But yeah, I think it was an ill-tempered match. And you kind of got the impression something was brewing. There was a rivalry on the horizon. The game is described as deadly and determined, and the short and narrow pitch made it difficult for Celtic to really get going. So that was the beginning of the rivalry. This was the start, and as we alluded to, it gets much worse.
One thing that before we start talking about the second game was this quote from Hans Krankel in 2009, and I think it was obviously they were wheeling out the old guys when we were going to play them again, and he said, quote, "In Glasgow they were up 3-0, but what they played was rugby, not football. They were over-aggressive and unfair. The icing on the cake was the bottle that hit Rudy. He collapsed and was bleeding heavily when carried off." Okay, so I mean, apart from the details about the goalkeeper and stuff like that line that we played rugby, not football. See, when you watch the extended highlights of that game, did Celtic not just look to you like a fantastic passing unit that was playing them off the park?
In the tie at Celtic Park, it was all Celtic,
and it wasn't as if we were kicking them.
Celtic. And let's, like, as we're going to talk, we're going to have to jump ahead here just to clarify something here. But Tommy Burns got hooked, like an outright haymaker. He took a jab in the chops, and he also got kicked by the goalkeeper,
like a Schumacher type kick.
He jumped out and then lunged and sort of kicked him. I'm kicking my chair there, like doing the motion in the kitchen here. and to suggest that Celtic were the aggressors is just absolutely nonsense. It's absolute nonsense. We never kicked or punched anyone.
No.
Yet they were the guys that were doing it.
And there was so much silky football on display. I mean, this was really a team that when you look back at it, it seems like a team that underachieved because of the amount of talent we had there.
Yeah.
And just to kind of, I hate this. It seems to be like a shorthand for Scottish teams that we are always the brutes. The same with those clowns from Kazakhstan from last week. They were saying that we were just kicking and diving.
Clowns from Kazakhstan.
The biggest thing about last week was that our midfield weren't getting near anyone to kick them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And to say that we were kicking and diving was just absolute fucking nonsense. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It just seems to be a shorthand button to press as soon as you talk about a Scottish team.
Celtic aren't known for being aggressive, and we're not known for having that style of football. We're not hammer throws. We're not.
No.
We don't go out in a game to try. We don't really have those types of players. A lot of our players are small and slight. We've not got big aggressors on our side. So for the guy to quote to say that, and we're talking that quote that you mentioned was 25 years after it happened.
Aye.
The fact that the guy's old enough to know better, and he's obviously watched it again. He was part of it. And Tommy Burns literally got hooked in the chops. I posted it on the Twitter.
Aye.
It's a proper. And it's a snidey one as well, because Tommy Burns is back to the guy, and the guy just sort of runs up and sort of swings his arm around and catches him in the side of the face, and Tommy Burns isn't even looking in the direction. So
exactly.
Basically, they're talking absolute shit.
I love the mime.
That's the gist.
I love the mime from the linesman. Did you see it when the linesman calls the ref over and does like a full hook motion?
He does. He actually does the. I was actually quite surprised at that the linesman got involved in the fact he managed to see it. I'm not sure, but the officials in those days, I don't think there was a cap on the age that they have to stop at, because the referee himself looked about 50 odd.
He looked as if he was a pipe smoker as well, man.
The linesman on the side was a bit of a fat guy. So I was like, maybe today's like 45 and you have to retire, but maybe not. So the guy managed to see it anyway. Sure enough. The guy gets sent off. Mm-hmm. So that takes us straight in. That was a guy called Keenast. He's the guy that actually injured Frank McGarvey in the first game that took Frank McGarvey off the pitch, and we had to replace him with Alan McInally, who ironically got sent off as well.
One thing also about that first game was that Danny McGrain got booked, which put him out of this tie. Yeah,
that's true. Yeah, Danny McGrain got a second yellow. I think he maybe got booked in the Ghent, one of the Ghent games, or it had accumulated. It wasn't a straight red, it was just a one match suspension as far as I could find. Mm-hmm. And obviously with McInally, he was suspended for the game as well because he got a straight red in the previous game.
Yeah. So I mean, as you start watching, as the game starts off, it is just a kind of wave after wave of Celtic attack. I mean, I think in the whole highlights over the 90 minutes, I saw Rapid Vienna going forward maybe 2 or 3 times.
We should point out that we're talking highlights, it's 22 minutes.
It's extended
which is
highlights.
Quite a lot.
Yeah.
It's extended highlights, so it's not like we just saw Celtic wave after a wave. Celtic had chances. Mm-hmm. So one of the chances that we had, I noticed Paul McStay had a great chance, and it seemed like in the first half Celtic scored 2 goals. You should point out, in the first half Celtic were just dominant. Paul McStay had a chance from the edge of the 18-yard line. The ball sort of came out, and he kneed it up. I'm kneeing my table here. He kneed the ball up and sort of placed it for a volley, and he didn't rattle it. He was trying to place it in the top corner, and it was narrowly wide. And I should point out, Paul McStay I think he had only just turned 21 in this game.
I think he was
so
even
a very
younger.
Young maestro.
I think
he was born in 61.
Was he?
So
I've got him down.
I saw 20, maybe 23 then.
No, I've got him down as being born in 64. Let's check that out.
Go for it.
Wait a minute, 2 seconds. Because I thought he was actually 19.
You were looking at Paul Pogba, maybe?
No, 64. It was only 19. It wasn't 20 until October 22nd.
And this first game was the 24th, so it was 2 days after his birthday.
So he just turned 20.
He just turned 20, so
fucking hell, man.
You were looking up Pogba or something like that. So the team that we had, anyway, let's go through the team that we had in this infamous game now. Pat Bonner, Willie McStay, McLeod, Aiken, McAdam, Peter Grant, Proven, Paul McStay, McClare, Burns, and McGarvey. Mm-hmm. I think we brought on a sub. Excuse me, in the 90th minute, I think it was Mark Reeds. And as I say, Celtic took the lead, and we did speak about the highlights just being all Celtic, but it was true. We absolutely battered them in the first half. Roy Aiken had a couple of chances. McStay had a couple of chances, McClair had a couple of chances, and the goal was a very good goal by McClair, started with a great through ball by McStay, who slid the ball through to Provan, who was bursting down the wing. First time, whipped it in for McClair to sweep it home, and that was McClair's, I think that was his 9th goal of the season, so the one in the previous leg would have been his 8th.
Yeah, I mean, it must have been, at this time, it must have been such a, I don't know, it must have been such a good feeling seeing like such a young player like McStay coming through. You've got McClair, you've got Murdo McLeod as well, so it must have been quite
Mo Johnston.
Mo Johnston,
I mean, he was alright for Celtic, and players like McGarvey and Danny McGrane, obviously,
and David Provan.
Yeah, these players at Celtic were good. Celtic played good football in this game. We can't deny that. This goal was in the 32nd minute. I should add, and their goalkeeper made some decent saves. One of the ones there was, I think it was McClair was 1-on-1 with the goalie, and he went to chip him and absolutely scalped the ball right off the guy's face, right off the guy's, squashed his face in, which was quite good to see.
Yeah.
But so the second goal was in injury time of the first half, and there was a bit of a ping pong in the box, like
Stramash.
We had a stramash, but the ball was like up in the air for about a minute, just pinging around, two defenders clashing with each other, Celtic jumping up, challenging, and the ball broke to Murdo McLeod, who had the time to sort of take a touch and let it bounce and just volleyed it through about 4 people in at the opposite corner, and it was a great finish.
Then Murdo McLeod went from kind of a hero to villain. Did you see that miss in the second half?
Yes.
When it comes to the back post and he's got an empty net?
Yes.
God almighty, what was he thinking?
Yeah.
Maybe it was too long to think about it, I don't know.
Yeah. We should add as well the next goal that we scored. So just to finish that, then that was the first half. That was like, as soon as we scored the goal, in the replay, they kicked off, the whistle blew, so it's 2-0 at half time, and we scored just on half time, and you can imagine the atmosphere in the stadium.
Yeah.
It's rising and rising and rising.
At this point, we're going through because we've got the away goal as well. So yeah.
At this point, exactly, we're going away, and we're going through. So the next goal was by Tommy Burns. Now, this is a goal that I tried to watch as closely as I could see if there was a foul or not. And basically, there's a looping header up the pitch from McLeod after passing around, and McGarvey controls it quite well and lays it off to Tommy Burns, who's sprinting through 1-on-1 with the keeper. And it's slightly controversial. The goalkeeper comes out to meet the ball at the same time as Tommy Burns, and both slide in at the exact same time. The
keeper down with his hands, but Tommy Burns obviously with his feet.
With his feet forward, in this day and age, it would never have been a goal because the goalkeepers have a lot of protection, and any sort of touch on the goalkeeper, it's a free kick straight away. Where I did with this, it was quite like I didn't see any contact by Tommy Burns on the goalkeeper. In fact, the goalkeeper doesn't even suggest that there's any contact, but the Rapid players were not happy at all.
The one thing I would say about it is that Tommy Burns is studs up, which even if he doesn't make contact, nowadays I think it would just be chalked off straight away. Back then, obviously, you could get away with a lot more.
Yeah. I should point out that like, he did connect with the ball, but he had to get up and take the ball back. The ball was just sitting there, and then he had to actually slot the ball home. It wasn't like he just slid in and poked the ball in. He actually had to get back up and then finish the job.
Aye.
So that was Celtic up to 3-0.
And at this stage of the game, we've got you had the McClair chance you're talking about, the McStay chance, the Murdo McLeod chance. McClair then hits the bar, and then of course we have the penalty kick. Yeah, we have a penalty kick. You know, how does that penalty kick happen?
The penalty kick is for the... Well, we spoke about the punch. Was it for the punch?
No, it's for the kick.
It was for the kick? Yeah, that's fine. Because the punch was in the box as well. How can you not give a penalty if the punch was in the box and the guy seen the punch and sent him off? How can you not give a penalty for that?
No idea.
How does that work?
No idea.
You punch someone, and if you do any sort of foul in a box, it
should have been a penalty.
It should be a penalty. Anyway, so we spoke about this stupid ninja kick that the guy done on Tommy Burns, who's the nicest fucking guy in the world. And then we were given a penalty towards the end of the game, and Peter Grant didn't even get it on target. He hit it wide, and that would have really solidified the result more and more.
And also that karate kick that leads to the penalty is the thing that leads to the whole fucking chaos.
It's the catalyst for the meltdown that those players had. because at this point it's considered one of the greatest comebacks in Celtic's European history.
Yeah.
And especially at that time, obviously we had Carragandi and ones like that, which I don't really think would compare.
No, because the quality of the team's not the same, I don't think.
Yeah, because Rapid were a good side, as we alluded to, but at this stage it's looking like Celtic are absolutely on one. We're going through, we had all these chances, we dominated the game, we deserved to go through. The commentator said in the highlights that the referee really needs to have eyes in the back of his head to see that everything that was going on, because the sneaky Viennese were like up to the no good sniping digs into the Celtic players. Like a lot of their players were rolling around the ground for nothing, and like when Celtic were attacking, one of the players would just like lie on the ground and try and get the game stopped that Celtic would play on. Things like that. It was like when the game did stop for this penalty, that's when it became really vitriolic. The game was stopped for well over 10 minutes.
The Celtic fans need to have a bit of a kind of hold their hand up a bit, because there was some amount of stuff getting rained on that pitch, man. Yeah. It was like the stuff that you could see, the big objects, and then you could see fucking coins falling. I think somebody in Kerrydale Street was saying, if you look closely at the video, some of the ball boys are actually picking up the coins and putting them in their pockets.
Excellent. I did notice from the highlights in the first game that when they scored the first goal in the Vienna game in Vienna, when they scored the first goal, they were at their home support, and even their home support were throwing things at them.
Is that right?
Now, stuff came from their end of the stadium and like throwing them at the players. Now, whether that was a celebration or that was a Celtic fan sneaking in their way in, and the home end, I don't know, but we should really admit that Celtic fans were chucking things on. Now, I don't remember it well enough to know if that was how things were in those days. It was just acceptable to start chucking things on the pitch because you didn't like how it was going.
From
reading bottles and stuff like that.
Yeah, from reading Kerrydale Street, it seems to be that era was a culture of like basically English hooliganism. So that was round about the time where English fans get banned, and then obviously the tragedy in Juventus, was it, with what do you call it, the Heysel. I think that was all around about the same time. So I think the kind of consensus with those guys is that the UEFA were trying to make an example of us, and that maybe we weren't the worst at it, but that it was easier to tackle us than it was to tackle somebody with the English FA behind them.
Yeah. As I say, like the game was stopped for over 10 minutes, and then Rapid were trying to and you've now found out that they were strongly wanting to like walk off the pitch, but they were like told to stay on the pitch because they would have forfeited the tie, and then that's when everything just became a mess, and they were claiming this and that, and it just got really, really messy. The bottle got thrown on the pitch, and one of their players sprinted as fast as he could to pick it up to bring it back to the referee.
Exactly.
And all this because their goalkeeper, and you can't deny the goalkeeper did kick Tommy Burns. Like, it's the most unnatural move ever.
I think
he's clearly trying to kick Tommy Burns.
I think a big part of it as well is the fact it was Tommy Burns, because you know that would have been like maybe when we were going to see Celtic games back in the day. It would have been a case of somebody doing it to Henrik Larsson. Or maybe nowadays, maybe somebody doing it to Kieran Tierney. You know what I mean? Tommy Burns was like the man for Celtic supporters. So
he was the nicest guy. He was, as we spoke about, he was the nicest guy. Everyone liked Tommy Burns. So he took a jab and took a kick, and then we still got put out.
And the bizarre thing about Peter Grant hitting a penalty. Why the fuck was he hitting a penalty?
I don't know. I don't really know. And it was as I say, it wasn't even on target. The goalkeeper didn't really have to work or anything. It just sort of went past the post, and that was the end of it. But like I read that Rapid were described as thugs.
I mean, they looked at, like, as far as I could see, they were describing us as thugs, but there was times where like Paul McStay received the ball and swiveled, and the guys were just trying to kick his legs away from under him.
Yeah,
you know, it was disgraceful. But following the game, obviously, I think Rapid complained to UEFA before they even get back to Vienna, and the UEFA said... On you go, sorry.
Sorry, on you go.
No, I was just going to say that then UEFA fined Celtic for 4,000 for the bottle being thrown, and fined Vienna 5,000 for indiscipline in general. So
basically, we were beating them, something gets thrown on the pitch, all these underhand tactics by them. Before they even left Glasgow, they sent a telex, or whatever, a fucking Duff, whatever they do, a Raven, sent a Raven, whatever they did those days, I don't know.
Do you think they had to say stop at the end of every sentence? Stop.
Yeah. So they sent this complaint straight away. It came back and says, no, you're talking shite, we're going to fine Celtic $4,000 because they threw a bottle on the pitch, but we're fining you $5,000 for your conduct and fuck off. That's basically what happened.
So basically they held Rapid more like kind of responsible than Celtic,
yeah.
you know?
Yeah, at this stage. And then this was when the whole thing about, he was hit with a bottle, and then people come forward, like delegates come forward and says, the bottle did not land anywhere near him. Oh, no, we didn't mean a bottle, we meant a coin. And that way, because of the footage back then, you can't see the coin really clear enough. Mm-hmm. So they had to go on that word. And UEFA then had to readdress it.
Yeah.
And then they doubled Rapid's fine. And also, they doubled Rapid's fine and then ordered the game to be struck from the record books and said that the game has to be played in a neutral venue 150 kilometres away from Celtic Park. So that took us to Old Trafford.
The one thing that I noticed about this is this was from the Scotsman, I think it was, in 2009, and this kind of thing makes my blood boil a little bit. It says here that the ruling was delivered by only 3 members of the 21-man UEFA committee, and that Celtic would have easily got this overturned if they'd appealed, but the Celtic board agreed to play Old Trafford because they thought, we're going to beat them again and we're going to get the pus from a massive crowd, and see if that shit's true. Then that's another example of the Celtic board fucking putting finances in front of the actual team, you know, and that's fucking disgusting if it's true.
Yeah, it's funny that you should mention the board again. It seems to be a recurring theme on these podcasts, and we're covering decades here, but there is a recurring theme where the board are interfering in affecting Celtic as a team and as a group and as a club, mainly due to money. So that's something that does annoy me. And I never actually came across that when I was reading. I never realised that was the reason, but I did hear that there was only 3 people out of 20 odd that suggested that it should be replayed. And obviously we never appealed for it. But I did read that after the game, the guy Weinhofer, who was apparently the midfielder who was apparently hit with something, he had his head all bandaged up to the max, and Frank McGarvey says it looked like a turban. And apparently, first aid people looked at his head, couldn't find anything at all. They couldn't find any hint of any impact of anything hitting them at all.
It was a metaphorical coin.
Yeah, a metaphorical coin, and it just highlights how much of a fucking bunch of dicks these guys were. But my friend's dad described it as one of the great injustices of world football. He said that he was quite young at the time. He went to the third game in Manchester. He felt so strongly about it. He didn't really travel to away games because he was relatively young at the time, but he felt so strongly about the result of the appeal and stuff like that he wanted to go to Manchester to support the team. He was so aggrieved, and he went on to say that Celtic should have withdrawn, and he still hates Rapid to this day. But I read that a lot of people suggested Celtic should have withdrew rather from the tournament.
I think that would have been one way, but I think it would have been just better if we went and fucked them up a second time, you know what I mean? But obviously there'll be reasons why. I think the players would have lost their head a little bit, thinking to themselves that they've done it already, why are we having to play them again? And that takes us on to your friend being one of 40,000 Celtic fans going down to Manchester for the game. Yeah,
I think there was a higher attendance in Manchester than there was in Celtic Park. I noticed that I read that Rapids wore a special strip
a red one.
A red one, and I wonder why they were wearing red playing in Manchester United Stadium.
Yeah, I know, but they're just fucking bastards, man.
Sycophantic ratbags, man. So there was a whole list of. I think the appeal was heard on the 23rd of November, a full week after the initial announcement, and then obviously we are into December. We've started this trilogy of games against these wankers in October, and then we're stretching it out into a third month, which is just fucking unbelievable. That's why I was reading some Davy Hay stuff, and I just want to I'm going to go through some quotes here, as I like to do. So Celtic are deeply incensed. This is from a newspaper article, I think. Celtic are deeply incensed, not only with Rapid, who are alleged to have stooped at Parkhead to underhand tactics which range from brutal assaults to play acting, but with UEFA. Davy Hay. The order for us to replay a match we had won so well was one of the worst injustices in football. I would rather lose by playing well than win by shady methods. And he said that while he may be seething inside, Hay is adamant that Celtic's famous name must not be further tarnished. A bottle thrown at Parkhead led to the replay decision. So Davy Hay was clearly incensed by it all, and I just want to continue and add a couple of bits more because he goes on to say that it wasn't easy. I have to ask the lads to be disciplined all through, but at the same time point out to them that as they're 2 goals down from the first leg in Austria, now bearing in mind that 3-0 game we just spoke about is erased, we're still 3-1 down.
I forgot all about that.
So it's like the middle game doesn't exist, so it's back to square one for Celtic in the second leg. So he said it isn't easy. I have to ask the lads to be disciplined all the way through, but at the same time point out to them that as they're 2 goals down from the first leg in Austria, they'll have to have a real go. Is that contradictory? I don't know, but I don't know what that can. But I do know that we can't lie back and take it. So I think the consensus was like Celtic were fucking beeling, and everyone associated with Celtic was beeling with this. But you don't really want to have to carry this anger and frustration and venom into another game that means so much. They want to just go and play their game, but I think he was indicating he was struggling with the balance of having them go and play their normal game, but also try not to be affected by the frustration, but try and use that at the same time.
It's a fucking mix up in your head, that, isn't it?
Totally.
But so essentially, when Rapid scored that, Celtic had to score 3 goals to even take it to extra time.
Aye.
See, I
so like
in
the first game was 3-1, second game was 3-0. That was erased, and then we have to go and play it again. So we need to start from scratch. Like the Celtic Park game, as I said, it was struck from UEFA's records. Game didn't exist. It will have an asterisk. The asterisk.
What about an obelix?
And even to obelix. It will have a little star next to its name just to indicate that the game was null and void. So that took us into December the 12th, 1984. Old Trafford, Pat Bonner, McGrain, Murdo McLeod, Aiken, McAdam, Peter Grant, Probin, McStay, that's Paul, McGarvey, Burns, McClary. You can see that's the team that we stuck with throughout this period, and it was our strongest side. And the goal, we lost 1-0, but it was a fucking bastard of a goal to lose.
After we just hit the post, was it?
We literally hit the post, and he should have scored. I think it was McLeod.
No, it was the Bear.
It was Aiken.
Aye.
It was Aiken. He hit the post, and what the fuck's he doing up there anyway? He should have scored because it was more or less an open goal, and he's clipped the post.
Yep.
And before you know it, that guy Packle, who we spoke about a lot in this so far, Packle guy, he's off and running. And Danny McGrain, God bless him, he was not the fastest in this footage. You see him, he's just like
that's white.
There's just smoke. There's smoke coming off Packle's heels, and poor Danny, who can do what the fuck he wants, is trailing him, and he's just like, fuck it, I'm going to try and take him out, and tries really hard to fucking bring him down for a definite red card. He doesn't even get close. And then, to be fair to the Packle guy, he just breezes past Bonner and then slots it in, and that's it. So
then the kind of the atmosphere turns even worse, and a Celtic fan, an English Celtic fan, just add that part.
From Coventry.
Comes on and boots their goalkeeper in the balls.
He's like, it takes 5 coppers to remove this guy. He's actually on throwing digs inside the goal. He's like in the net, just jabbing fuck at this goalkeeper. And he actually said to us, I'm going to kill you. That's exactly what he said. The guy got 3 months in jail.
Fuck's sake.
3 months in jail for giving a few digs and saying he's going to kill someone. So fair play, wherever you are. Hope you're listening.
I think that was after we'd just been refused a Stonewall penalty in the second half. So I think that was just tipping point for a lot of people. So
yeah, Celtic. I should point out Celtic got fined 18, close to 20 grand in the next after this game for the antics because we speak about the violence here as if it's quite funny. It's not really that funny, I guess. I don't really condone it, but like
it's a wee bit funny.
It's a wee bit funny. Packle, who's the guy, the fucking protagonist in most of all this. He took a kick in the balls as he was leaving the pitch. Like a fan just appeared from nowhere and followed him in the balls as he was trying to into a sea of people. Yes.
But the thing about it is, say if anyone fucking lifts an arm nowadays, man, it goes to like the Offensive Behaviour Act and all this shit. Imagine if something like this happened nowadays.
Wouldn't happen.
Fucking, they would just put the whole team in jail.
See, I just want to point out the in between the Rapid Vienna games, the 2 games that we played, the last 2, we played Dumbarton, we beat them 2-0, we played Hearts, we beat them 5-1, we played St Mirren, we beat them 7-1, we played Dundee, we beat them 5-1, We played Aberdeen, we lost 4-2. We pointed out at the start Aberdeen were flying at this point, but I think we scored about 21 goals in between. So there must have been a confidence around Celtic, but the circumstances around this third tie were extremely unique and they haven't been seen since.
I think it would have just been a collection of things. Like Celtic, as you can see from their goal, Celtic were obviously trying to put as much pressure on them as possible. We probably left ourselves too short at the back. I think we only had maybe 2 players on 2.
Yeah, because like when Roy Aitken and like Murdo McLeod and that are actually pushing way forward, especially Roy Aitken, and he's hitting the post like point blank range, and wee Danny is at the back. It's equivalent to like not Lustig, like Izagiri being at the back. He's quite small, not the fastest. He's like chasing after this big speedy Austrian cunt, you know. So Celtic also got forced to play the next European game behind closed doors, which there was a big uproar because it just punished the fans. It punished the fans more than it punished the club. The club were trying to accept the responsibility, but obviously 2 fans ran on the pitch and were throwing haymakers. So,
the one kind of thing that galls a lot of people is the fact that Rapid Vienna went into the next round and pumped Dinamo Dresden 5-0. They then pumped Moscow in the semi-finals, and they got through to play Everton. And I think a lot of Celtic fans at the time were thinking, that could have been us. That should have been us. We should have been into the final of the European Cup Winners' Cup.
Yeah, and as we spoke about earlier on in the final, Everton fans had a banner saying we should have been playing Celtic. We should have played Celtic or whatever. So
I know it's a defunct trophy and it doesn't really matter, but it would have been good to win it as well.
Of course, but we're only in the second round. Obviously, we'd still have to manoeuvre the remaining time. We'll start at 6 games between then and the final. Mm-hmm. But it was that's the beginning of a long-standing rivalry that will stick in the throat of many fans. And like as we spoke about earlier, like we are reading about this, we were not old enough to appreciate anything at this time. Yeah. But I definitely have a beef with Rapid Vienna.
Definitely, yeah. The scumrats.
Yeah. So that's.
It was also the beginning of a 16-year period where we never get past the second round in Europe. Yeah. So I mean that would have taken us right into like the Martin O'Neill era.
Totally.
Which is an awful for a team like Celtic. That's an awful kind of statistic. So.
As we said though, like certain teams had their renaissance in those periods, like the Aberdeen and Dundee United, and then obviously the juiced up Huns went on a run, and so Celtic were just languishing at the back, and we obviously had all the problems in the 90s, which we've alluded to in the past. But basically, I mean, when it comes down to the Rapid fans and the whole Rapid thing, you can't really excuse the missiles and the fans running onto the pitch, but you just felt like Rapid were at it in every fucking tie, and it's not really what about it or that. It's just that I felt that Rapid knew what they were doing, and it was just really fucking snidey, calculated, underhand, shite, snidey, wanky tactics. And as I say, like it's a definite rivalry for me now. And I've never actually met any Rapid fans. I didn't like my travels, but I'll be sure to call the next one a fucking wanker.
I'm going to get an Austria Vienna strip.
No, don't do that.
So I went on to Kerrydale Street to see if there was any feedback on this stuff, and I got a few comments. One thing I did notice from Kerrydale Street is they seem to be quite precious. One guy made an implication about Nazism, and essentially everyone came on and was like, kind of saying, "Oh, that's bullshit. That's Hun behaviour and all this." It was the kind of thing that would have no one would have batted an eyelid in the huddle board. But on Kerrydale Street, everyone was going mental about it.
Oh, they're completely different forums. Kerrydale Street's more football focused, whereas the huddle board's a bit of a free for all. But both are great for various things. I mean, what is Austria famous for anyway? Arnold Schwarzenegger and Bruno. Is that about
it? Aye. And Bruno. Annexation. Apart from that, nothing much.
Yeah.
So I got the first comment was from the boy Wonder. He said, "Kids, these clips only tell half the story. Believe me, they made the Huns look like gentlemen. It was the most shocking game of football I ever saw in my life." S, which is ESS, said, "This was the most shameless, cowardly display of cheating that I have ever seen. Make no mistake, Rapid were the lowest form of football and detritus. There is no excuse at all for the conduct of Rapid players, except if you're Austrian, where you tell your sons lies. Apart from the evidence of my own eyes, there's a small matter of the fact that the Celtic team that night had no need to get into a fight. As you showed, they totally outplayed Rapid on the night. I'm sure guys like McClare, Burns and McStay could look after themselves, but that team played football first and foremost. A good solid pumping is in order." And that guy was referring to the game in 2009.
These are comments from 2009, that's right.
Aye. So this was kind of brought up because of that. Kevin G said, it was our own fault, the game got replayed, no missiles, no replays, time to get over it.
Yeah.
Stalin's Nose said, if we were good enough to win the cup that year, we surely would have beaten them at Old Trafford. And the last one was Gaza2 said, was at the game, was standing at the corner of the jungle and the Celtic end after the Austrian keeper made the Kung Fu challenge on Tommy Burns. The atmosphere changed in an instant. The Austrians were putting lumps out of the good guys the whole night, but the challenge on Tommy Burns was a turning point. Knew then something was going to happen, but I thought it would have been a pitch invasion by a few numpties. The Austrians that night were cheating bastards, but ultimately it was the bottle throwing tossers who cost us a tie.
Yeah.
Went to the replay at Old Trafford, never felt so low after a game, and that still stands, although Black Sunday runs it close. Hail, hail.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess that kind of wraps up Celtic Rapid Vienna from 1984.
It's one we can definitely put to the back of our minds now, because it's not something you want to dwell on too much, because it's quite a difficult one to read through and research and probably listen to. But it's done. It's in the past now.
I do hope we get them again soon, because I didn't appreciate it in 2009, and the next time I will appreciate it. So
yeah, and I mean, it's in the games in 2009 they gave us a game as well. So
aye, but we were shite then, so hopefully we can be a bit better the next time we play them. So. But so we've got the game tonight. Also, just before we started talking about that, I just wanted to mention the game last night. I think both of us watched it, the Ironbrew Cup game.
Yeah.
What did you think of that?
It was very good. Celtic were Celtic Colts, as they're called, because they're the under-20s. I never knew that was the format this season, that we were the top sides in the SPL or the Premiership, whatever they're called now, are allowed to submit under-20s development teams. So I didn't realise that, but I was surprised to see Azure playing. But obviously, when the guy Varanen scored in the first minute, you're like, fuck, it was some goal as well, to be honest.
Aye.
You thought, fuck, here we go. But 5-1, was it?
5-1.
5-1,
yeah.
Aye. Like, some of the goals were fucking unbelievable. Celtic were just all over the pitch. Really, really enjoyed watching it. Some of them, I think Ralston is definitely in Brendan Rodgers' sights. I think he's going to be on the fringes of the first team more often this season.
Good to see it. Good to see Brendan watching it as well. You know.
I saw Brendan with his two sidekicks side by side. Yep. But kind of watching it last night made me think: is this Dyler? Is this like Dyler's vision? Is this what he wanted? Because I know Dyler had a big impact on the youths, like the different levels of youth setup that we have, and he implemented all these changes, and I wonder if this is like the fruit of that.
It's funny because that team played the way that Dyler said that he wanted us to play. Maybe the youngsters are the only ones that would listen to him.
Yeah, and I've heard that. Like when you read these, there's loads of big threads in that on the huddle board and Twitter chat. You read that Dyler had made huge changes, as I say, at different levels, and a lot of the kids, because he was like taking time to speak to these younger kids, they're obviously going to be looking up to him more than say a Chris Commons or a Scott Brown.
Yeah. So
they're going to take these things in and try, if they've got it, they're going to try hard to impress, and hopefully this is something that's going to some of these guys will break through this season. Obviously we had Aitchison scoring the last game of the season against Motherwell, and Ralston's on the fringes. Azure is obviously there. Calvin Miller, his crossing was just this cross for the first goal. His first assist. Oh, what a ball, man! And then some of the finishing was great. And
fucking Aidan Nisbet, man, good. He was just like he was like a playmaker about the whole park, man. He was going everywhere.
It was extremely good to watch, and I'm happy. I'm happy that these young guys are getting a chance against men and against. I know Annan are not the biggest club in the world, and they're not even the biggest club in wherever they're from, probably. But they're playing against men that want to win, and it's going to be a good experience because a lot of them are still young boys. Some of them are still like 17, 18. So I'm happy that it's completely positive for Celtic, completely positive for the first team. And I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I think a part of it would also be like it would be extra hard because the guys from Annan will probably feel quite embarrassed by the fact that they're having to play these youngsters, and we'll try that extra kind of few percentage to kind of say to them, you might be at Celtic, but you're not a fucking footballer yet, you know.
Yeah.
And the Celtic players just overcame that. They were getting kicked and they were getting up and playing, getting the ball in the ground and playing again, you know. So that was good.
The conditions weren't great. They sort of showed it in the end, and like to go a goal down so fast and then to come back and win emphatically like that, it says a lot about the mentality of these young guys.
Good to see PJ Crossan as well coming on.
Aye, he came on and he scored it, didn't he?
He scored the last one.
He scored the last goal, he scored the fifth one, so it's all positive, and I do want to give some credit. I think some credit needs to go to Dyler for that. If that's what we're reading is to be believed. But the game tonight, I'm quietly confident. Let's say that.
I hate it though. I hate going into these games and being quietly confident because it's usually then that we get fucked up the bum, man. It's usually
right up the bum.
It's like fucking Maribor 2 years ago. Quietly confident, one each in the first leg. We're going to do them, and then bam.
But then the fear under Ronnie, like that we had that frailty that we had under Ronnie, was that we were really open in parts of the pitch, really open at the back. Anytime a team went forward, you were just scared. They were like, you felt like they were always going to score. I just feel like I just think the momentum is with Celtic for this tie tonight.
Yeah.
We managed to score that goal quite late on last week, maybe the 70th minute, which was not really expected. I expected us to play that game. I expected we could have played 4 hours that night, last Wednesday or Tuesday, and we wouldn't have scored. But to score that goal was kind of against the run of play. It was a good goal to score. So I think the momentum is with us, and I think they're missing a couple of players. I was saying that we are missing Sviatchenko again. We're also missing Beaton, and the chances of Toure being actually fit are probably quite low.
Well, over the last few weeks, we've had a few kind of leaks on Twitter during the day of the game about certain lineups and stuff like that. I don't know why it's happening this season because it didn't really happen much before. But Paul the Tim, the infamous Paul the Tim, tweeted this morning that he heard that Effie Ambrose is not going to be playing. So if that's the case, then I think we're going to be looking at maybe a defence of Lustig and O'Connell, or maybe Toure.
Lustig, O'Connell. I read Yanko was playing Lustig, O'Connell in the centre, and then Tierney at left back.
Could be.
It's just that one centre half position that's unaccounted for with Eric being missing. I think O'Connell is probably going to be picked, and I have a feeling that Toure is going to pick. My team for tonight, I'm just going to tell you right now while we're talking, is Yanko, O'Connell, Toure, Tierney, assuming that Toure's fit. Roberts, Brown, Rogic, McGregor, Griffiths and Dembele or Chifchi. Now, Dembele hasn't really done anything yet to suggest, whereas Chifchi is sort of, I don't know, he's the only alternative really have to play up front. I don't want to go one up front. I don't want to do 4-2-3-1. I just want to go 4-3-4-4-2 and play Roberts in the wide and McGregor in the wide with Rogic and Brown in the middle. I liked it. I know it was only a friendly and it was against Barcelona, but Scott Brown was playing in really advanced positions, which I've never really seen him do. Like, he was chasing the ball down in like the 18-yard line in the Barcelona half, so maybe he can play a more advanced role. And I think Rogic, he just has to play. Like, I'm a big fan of Rogic. He can score goals, he can pass, he can do everything. I don't think he'll last the full game, but I'd like to see him start.
I with Beaton missing, I would have had Beaton in the team, but with him missing, I think I would probably do the 4-3-3 or the 4-5-1 just to kind of be a bit more conservative. I would have obviously Roberts, and I'd probably end up with that wee Dick Forrest in another wing. I would probably drop Dembele to the bench, if I'm honest. Have Griffiths through the middle, and then a central midfield of Brown, Rogic, and I said
McGregor, Armstrong.
Earlier I said Scott Allen, because I think Scott Allen, when he's on games, he's shown much more than a lot of the other players. I said this on Twitter a few days ago, but just with this rumour that he's going to Rotherham, then I take it he'll not be anywhere near the team. So I think it'll be McGregor, and then defence will work itself out. I mean, there's not really much to say about the defence, but I think we've got a chance to do it. I think we just need to go at them, but be wary that their game is not passing. Their game is getting it back to front as quickly as possible. So we just need to be wary of that kind of situation. So.
Yeah, I vouch for McGregor because McGregor can score goals. I mean, and he's quite mobile, and I'm not a big fan of McGregor, but I like him enough to warrant a start. I mean, we could definitely be doing with an improvement there, but players like Armstrong are not the answer. Christie, not yet. And my reason, again, I think Chifchi has shown that, he's quite eager sometimes, and sort of balloons, he plays with clown shoes sometimes. I just think his tenacity could be an asset over Dembele, but again, we could improve on Chifchi being a substitute for Dembele. I just think Dembele's going to need a little bit more time, and tonight we do need to score goals. We definitely need to score goals tonight because we can't rely on seeing a draw out. We can't rely on the away goal. It's
a situation where we've just got too many round pegs and square holes. You know, we've not got a proper left-sided midfielder or winger, so we're having to deal with that, and it's just always going to be an imbalance. But I don't know, that it's really, really hard to guess the Rodgers team beforehand. I don't think either of us have got it right so far. So again, I think we'll probably mess it up. We'll probably end up playing a 3-5-2 or something tonight.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to the game. Just going to watch it on Celtic TV.
Yeah.
I guess we'll talk about the rest of it afterwards. And before we kind of finish for this half, just want to give some show feedback from last week. We only got one tweet in. It was a guy called Thomas Hanlon, who's at Tommy Hanlon 81, and he pulled me up on my Griffiths chat from last week. He said,
rightly so.
He said, "Enjoy your show, but the worst 45 minutes you've seen? ? Gibraltar was worse for a start. Again, apologies, but the criticism of Griffiths was very harsh. It's not Bayern or Real Madrid after all. I think the rate of improvement in him from when he signed has been impressive. Again, keep up the good work with the show. Here we go."
Cool.
I agree with that, and I think maybe I was being a bit kind of what's the word?
Of a wank.
A bit of a wank.
You know, wanker.
No, a bit hyperbolic last week. I just think that there's a lot of players that can be improved on in our team, and for going forward, I think we need a better striker if we want to do something in Europe. For the SPL, Griffiths is brilliant at what he does, and it's essentially, I always support a player when he's in the team.
Yeah, that's a more balanced opinion. That's more succinct, and I tend to agree with that to an extent. But our bread and butter is domestic, and Griffiths just destroys it. So I'm extremely happy with Griffiths, as I alluded to previously.
Yeah. So I guess that'll do us for the first half. Unless you've got anything else you want to add?
No, I'm about to head off for the game in about 45 minutes or so.
What pub are you going to?
Going to Redmond's and Duke Street, then walking up to the Prince Charlie and Westmere Street just behind the stadium for a few gels, and then maybe go to the pub for one afterward, and then back up the road.
Fucking jealous, man. I'm going to the gym. Yep. I'm going to the gym, and that's all I'm doing.
So enjoy the game then.
Aye, you too.
So there's quite. I mean, I think the first half was pretty bland, apart from the goal.
I thought that as well. Like they had that 5-man defence, and it was just when Roberts gets taken off, we just severely lack creativity. Like, I think if it wasn't for the fact that we needed to use up those subs quite early on, I think Rogic would have came in.
I didn't manage to catch the reason why Roberts went off.
It looked like a hamstring.
Ah, okay. So what sort of?
Hopefully just a strain, but he was holding his hamstring.
Because I noticed that Johansson came running back instantly, but there was about 5 minutes before Roberts came off, and it looked as though he might stay on. And I was like, who are they going to take off then? Because Roberts, I thought it was tactical because they had a corner. They had a corner at this point, and I thought this is going to be a tactical move, and I was like, this is bold as fuck. Why is he doing this so soon? It's like 27 minutes into the game or something. Then obviously Roberts comes off, and I didn't really understand the reason why he was coming off. But he was isolated for most of the first half. The same with Griffiths. I thought the first half Griffiths never had any service at all.
I think it's again going to this situation where we're playing a kind of defensive European team. And if you have him as a central of a three, he can't hold up the ball. That's just not one of his strengths.
No,
you know what I mean?
That's true.
And that's not a bad thing. That's not a criticism of Griffiths. It's just he's not that type of player.
See, it's funny. The guys that were sitting behind me were saying I could overhear them talking. And they were just saying that he missed those two chances, and that's kind of the guys were going on about how he missed those two chances before we scored the winner. You know, that could have made the difference because at this point it was basically going for half an hour extra and then potentially penalties, and then who knows what. You don't want to think about that, but you're right in what you say. Like he seems to he had two good chances. One of them he should have scored definitely when it was Johansson it slipped through, which we'll talk about in a minute. But he should have had that chance in Europe. But he has scored again. It's another goal, 3 and 4.
I think people were talking about there was a rumour about maybe a swap deal for Hooper that Sheffield Wednesday were going to try and put together.
Absolutely not. There's no chance. There's more chance of me signing for Sheffield Wednesday than you signing for Celtic when that happened, because Celtic won't sell him, Griffiths won't want to go, and Hooper will want to come back. And I wouldn't swap Hooper for Griffiths anyway.
I wouldn't swap him. I wouldn't swap him either, because I think Hooper's even less of a modern striker than Griffiths, in that Hooper can't do anything outside of the box.
Maybe.
And for me, Hooper's a much better penalty box striker than Griffiths, but Griffiths gives you more all like the rest of the field. He'll shoot from 18 yards, 20 yards, and stuff like that. So
to be fair to Hooper, it's been what, 3 years since we broke up. The way people go on about Hooper, it's like fucking Ross and Rachel from Friends. I'm like, mate, let it fucking go. It's finished, man. Let it. Like my mate the night in the way back from, I was like, mate, patch it. It's done.
Was he talking about Hooper?
He was talking. I'm sure he was bringing up Hooper. I was like, mate, it's over. Let it go, man. It's done. It's done and dusted. But I wouldn't swap Grouper. I wouldn't swap Hooper for Griffiths in a minute. But in the first half, it was just really lacking. There was no too conservative, no cutting edge. We held the ball well, but we done that in Dyler's years. There was no creative spark. Very one way, pedestrian kind of nothing, and it was just like fucking hell. And then obviously we scored the goal on the stroke of half time, which completely changes the dynamic of the half time team talk for both teams.
Yeah.
And also the second half. So for me, the first half was like really fucking crap, man. I'm not trying to be super negative, but it was just the midfield was nothing. There was no, like, my mate made the point tonight. He says if the midfield that started of Forrest, Armstrong, McGregor, and even Brown, if you were told a month ago, as we're in this important second or the third round of the Champions League qualifier, tonight was the really big game. If you were told that is your starting four in the midfield like a month ago, that's what it's going to. That's the team that will start. That's the midfield. You'd have been fucking raging like that. No, that's not going to happen. Obviously, we have Roberts in there and getting Griffiths up top, but Forrest, Armstrong, McGregor, and even Brown, like Forrest and Armstrong, Forrest is leaving in a few months. Armstrong has turned out to be garbage. McGregor is so-so, and he managed to survive 90 minutes today, which was surprising. Brown had his best game for a while, I will say that.
Brown was good. Brown had a really good game. I mentioned it on Twitter during the game, but see, for me, I think I've realised what Armstrong is. Armstrong is Reggie Blinker. He's just Reggie Blinker Mark II. He's got no discernible quality.
No attributes. He's not anything.
He's not good at anything. No. Yeah, he's
like the times that he got caught. That time he got caught in the ball today, he's just like standing with the ball, like on the edge of the box. He doesn't even do anything. The guy just walks up, takes the ball off him. He's like, oh fuck.
See if you were doing like his FIFA stats or something, it'd be like a six for everything.
Oh, that's been generous. That's been generous. Like the whole chat about him is like, oh, he's been playing at a position. Like he's not. He's just not very good.
No.
He's peaked at Celtic. He's just not good enough. And I hope now that my friends are convinced now, like we will have two players in by like Friday. They're convinced that we'll have Sinclair in definitely. But Celtic's track record of this playing this fucking stupid game that we like to play, where you just sit and you wait and you wait and you wait. I don't have any confidence that we're going to sign. I thought we'd sign Sinclair last week and he'd been playing tonight, but...
Well, apparently Sinclair was at the stadium. There's guys in the Huddleboard claiming that he was sitting behind them.
But is there video?
There's no video of it. And another guy says Johnny Cash on the Huddleboard put up a thread about this guy called Abdul Aziz Tete. Apparently he was at the game tonight and he was shepherded in by like a director and stuff like that.
Who the fuck is he?
He's a defensive midfielder from Lech Poznan. That guy, Mr. Scruff, he's a Poznan.
He's the Polish correspondent for the Huddle.
He basically said that he will add nothing to the Celtic midfield. He's got a wee bit of potential, but he says he's not better than anything that we've got. So that would be an inspiring signing.
That sounds about right. Let's not get too bogged down. The first half we can forget.
We should focus on some of the positives as well, especially for me, Owen O'Connell.
Owen O'Connell was man of the match for me, although Dembele got the stadium man of the match. I don't know if you saw that.
I think that was just a nice...
It was just a give him it. O'Connell looked like he'd been playing for Celtic, like in the first team. He looked like a veteran. He could pass. He was winning everything. He's tall. He's strong. He's fast. His control, like...
He's built up as well. He looks more like a man now.
He's a big guy. He's one of the biggest guys on the pitch.
He's bigger than Effie Ambrose, I think.
I mean, yeah, he's one of the biggest guys on the pitch. I thought he was great, and it's mad that we're talking about O'Connell, and Tierney was fucking great as well. We're talking about these wee guys like grabbing the game by the scruff of the neck and sort of driving Celtic. Then you've got players like Lustig that are so static and so immobile, and like Lustig was doing my boxing tonight because he seems to have like this invisible box that he only likes to stay in. He would move forward and he still have space to push forward, like to go beyond that, but he would just stop and either side pass it to Yanko if he was there, which sometimes he wasn't. He would just turn around and pass it back to the goalkeeper. The goalkeeper saw more of the ball than fucking Griffiths. And the goalkeeper hardly made a save. It would just pass back, punt, pass back, distribute. I'm just like, fucking hell. And Craig Gordon, it was like I said last week that he's just not really as safe as he used to be, and I think tonight only sort of backs that up. I just don't foresee him being the Celtic goalkeeper for much longer. Probably this season he'll be there just out of how things are, but we need.
He's got really bizarre decision making.
Yeah,
and I don't know where that's coming from. You know, like why did he decide to come for that ball? You know, we had central defence cover. He could have just waited at the edge of his box and caught it when it got to him.
Yeah.
Or just fucking flying kick it out the park.
Yeah,
you know,
he absolutely flapped. It's funny. I was at the opposite side of the pitch when he done that mad spider flap, mad starfish move. And as I look for the
offside goal.
The offside goal. Was it offside?
Aye.
Right, cool. So, and as I was looking around, like you can see guys like doing an impression of it, telling their mate what they had missed, and he's like putting their hands and their legs up. But yeah, O'Connell was great. Tierney was great. Johansson, I forgot Johansson even existed. I thought Johansson was very good. Not very good. Let's not go overboard here. But I thought Johansson made a difference. He harried them around the pitch. Just threw the ball for Griffiths. I forgot that he can do that. Like you forget that in that first season that he came to Celtic, he had that in him, and then obviously the following season he was shite. So you don't really know who the real Johansson is. But that through ball tonight was great.
The thing that's kind of like heartening is the way that Beaton came on last week, and the way that Johansson played tonight when he came on, and the way that Brown's been playing recently. See if those three become our central midfield and start functioning as a central midfield, then we kind of don't have that many problems in that area.
I don't.
But I just can't trust it. You know, I just don't trust it that will work. You know, I think a central midfielder needs to be the priority, man.
I agree. Like, and the spark in midfield was lacking, like hugely lacking. And as I say, like there was loads of space. Like honestly, man, the amount of our defence had a lot of possession. Like, and they were never under pressure. It was just like passing it around because there was no one moving. There was no like the crowd were fucking screaming. There's no one like coming to collect the ball and then move it forward, and people seem scared to take on a man. Like, to go through the players, like we've already spoken about some, like Yanko, I think he's only got a couple of attributes. My mate described him as like a gap, but he's not as fast as a gap, he's not as agile as a gap. He's strong and he's fast, but he didn't really offer it. I think I only remember once he managed to knock the ball past a player and skin them, but his decision making was lacking.
I'll bring in one of the feedback comments right now, actually, because it's on Yanko, and this is from Barry McCabe, who is at Duck Dastardly, and he said, first thought about the game was Jas, second thoughts on Yanko, looks underwhelming, didn't seem willing to run at players, and this kind of like goes against a thread that popped up in the huddle board after the match, which was thought Yanko was decent tonight. And lots of people seem to be praising him, so he's literally splitting the support.
Well,
not literally, he's not getting an axe.
This is how it goes, man. Like I swear, like tonight, and the thing, the guy behind, like I think it was some player like done. I think they whipped the ball in. I think it was Tierney that whipped the ball in, and I thought it was a good cross, and I said to my mate, "So that's a fucking good cross, that." And the guy directly behind me, he didn't hear me at all. He's like, that was the worst decision he could have made there. It was like the complete opposite to what I said. And I was just laughing. I was like, that's just obviously seen game through your own eyes. It's just classic, man. But obviously Dembele got man of the match. He made an impact coming on, and he had that little thing with him and Griffiths, which looked quite good. I've looked back on the I saw footage of his penalty after it. I saw it looked a bit of a soft penalty. I actually saw it as walking past someone who were holding it in their phone in the pub after the game. So I was kind of brief, but it just seemed like it was a little bit soft.
One thing you need to notice, if you can have a look at that a bit carefully, is that the guy stands on his foot.
Ah, right. So it was a penalty.
Dembele does kind of put his legs up as if he's been a dying swan, but he has been fouled. I think, as far as I could see, it looked as if the guy stood on his foot.
Yeah.
So, and then that was a guy. He get a second yellow, despite the fact he shouldn't have been on at that point because he get booked and then he was fouling people all over the park. So
that was
lucky to still be on.
Something you highlighted earlier on about we spoke about how they were like complaining about like the thuggery and all this and the wrestling and like what are they going to say now because they get 2 players sent off. Like in the stadium, you didn't realise we had to, but like people around us like, I've had another man sent off. Like pointing at the players, trying to count them. Like, fuck, we've actually got 9 players in the pitch. Fucking hell.
They didn't even show you it in Celtic TV. They told you it was happening, but we'd never seen any footage of it.
And then, like when they kicked off, all the men were on the halfway line ready to attack. I was quite surprised that when the final whistle blew, it felt like it was very. I thought there was going to be like 5 extra minutes put on because in games like that,
they usually
add like loads of minutes. I thought the ref was actually quite good tonight. I thought he could have. I thought the ref was okay. I think he was relatively fair. They were like the Kazakhstanis were quite heavy-handed in their approach, and he done quite well. But I thought the ref was okay. And like you were mentioning the statistics, obviously it was just one-way traffic.
Oh, 61% possession, loads of shots, corners, everything.
One thing like I felt tonight was that I thought if that was a game under Dyla, we would have lost it.
For me though, like see about the 60th, 70th minute, it felt to me that the players were basically doing to Brendan Rodgers what they did to Dyla, because Dyla suffered mostly in Europe. He suffered from individual errors and then massive nervousness. Yeah. And see when Craig Gordon did that in the next 10 minutes. It just it looked like a dead ringer for a Ronnie Dyler match.
Aye, totally. It's that we have that inbuilt frailty that I've spoke about before about when teams go forward, you're just like, fuck, this is it. We're definitely going to get put out here. This is it. We're losing. So you have this shite bag mentality. And I was a fan of that.
They could have shot from 30 yards and gone in off somebody's arse, and that was it at the competition because we would have had to score 2 goals. So.
No, I know, and I didn't foresee us scoring 2 goals at any stage. During the game, like when they scored that freak goal, that was the guy that they signed from Maribor, I think.
The
guy Ibrahim, whatever he's called. But Gordon was disappointing. But last thing I'll say, like on the player performance, Toure was commanding people around him instantly. He came off. Like when he came on, and within 30 seconds they'd scored. Obviously, it's not his fault. But he was like, he picked the ball up, he ran up, put it in the spot. He was shouting at players. He was getting them to do stuff. Like, this is in front of Scott Brown. It's like kind of superseding Scott Brown's role to an extent. And he was just, but obviously, Toure's more experienced and has, I guess, a better quality of trophy, would you say?
Oh,
so, so like, Toure was almost like a captain in that moment. He was telling people what to do. He had his arm around Dembele at the end. He was words in Kieran Tierney's ear. It was really, really good to see. And Toure looked the part. Like he won. He's fast. He's fucking solid,
he's
man.
Fast, and he was good in the ball as well. When you consider we've got a defence of like a 19-year-old, a 20-year-old, and a 20-year-old. Then it's great to have someone like that come in. And it's going to be good for fucking Dembele as well, because I think he's the only other French speaker that we have.
Depends if Saidi Yanko speaks French, Swiss. I don't really know, but it's a fair point, because at the end you could see Toure and Dembele like closely talking after the pitch. And I have to say, the atmosphere was fucking brilliant, man. Honest to God, like the atmosphere throughout the game was pretty fucking good, but see at the end. And I'm sure you've seen the footage on Celtic TV, because I managed to see some of it in the pub. Oh man, like the support were going fucking bananas. Dembele was loving it. Griffiths was loving it. Yanko threw shutting at the crowd. It was just, I felt like we fucking won the fucking thing, man. We're only and the draw, which is against Zagreb, Copenhagen, Hapoel Beersheva, Dundalk, and
Ludogorets
of Bulgaria. So obviously we want Dundalk.
I've just got a feeling it's going to be Copenhagen, and if it's Copenhagen, I think we're gone, man. I just can't see us beating them.
Well, let's just hold the bus and just see how it goes. But like with the second half performance was much better than the first half. Still, a lot of work to be done with regards to the squad.
And to put it into context as well, like go out tonight were Shakhtar Donetsk, Anderlecht, Fenerbahce, Olympiacos, and Sparta Prague. They're all out of the competition.
So Shakhtar were winning. They're not winning 2-0 from the first leg.
I think they were, right?
But who were they playing again?
Wait a minute, I'll just check.
They were playing like Polish team, maybe.
Legia scraped through as well. They drew nothing each at home after winning 1-0 away. Shakhtar get put out of Young Boys of Bern.
That's it. The youngsters, young team. Hapwell, Loft. That's wild. Salzburg went through, but so let's. Tonight was great. And the atmosphere was amazing. That standing section is going to be so special. The atmosphere they create down there is just. It just reverberates around the stadium. So, like, all in all, extremely fucking happy. Obviously, we've got some deficiencies that need to be addressed, but we've managed to scrape through with this. And Dembele getting a goal was a big thing. And the balls he showed to come up and take that penalty, even though Griffiths scored one 45 minutes before, is like, it says a lot, and that's the goal that we needed him to get.
There's an interview actually on Celtic TV just from after the game where Griffiths says that if Dembele's on the pitch, he takes the penalties. And
you noticed his run up was about 5 feet or something like that, like really short run up. And because I noticed that when Griffiths and him took the penalty, after the ref had blown the whistle, they didn't like burst their ass to get to the ball. They took their time with it. It was like measured and placed, which I like to see. They weren't like snapping. So obviously, man, when that goal went in, it was just fucking pandemonium. And as I say, the atmosphere, and after the game when the players were doing the rounds, you just know that like Dembele and Toure will just be sentimental. The sentimental part of me just tells me that they're going to love it here, and that's Dembele, a hero already, and he's got his own song. Not many players have a song before they've even scored a goal. And he had a song.
Like there's not many weeks of the year where I don't sing the Victor Wanyama song into my head, in my own head, you know, because it's so fucking catchy. And now we've got another version of it, which is even better because he's still playing for us. So.
Totally. Yeah. So like overall, man, O'Connell, Tierney, Dembele, Brown, lots of positives. More positives than in previous games against the Imps and stuff like that. So I'm really happy.
For me, like, see if we could just see if we've got a budget. Just see we've got a budget of 8 million. I would be quite happy if we just said, okay, 4 million, get a quality central midfielder in. 4 million, get somebody like a Roberts for the left hand side, and then I would be quite happy going forward with that. You know what I mean?
I think the defence with O'Connell's performance, with Toure coming in, with Simunovic, Boyata still to come back. We and Lustig can play there. We should be okay. I mean, we can't like really. Do we really want 8 centre halves for 2
We can't sign another centre half. It'd be madness, man.
It's just bad. Like we're already like, overflowing with shite in the midfield. So we don't really want to have to start doing that. I still believe in Boyata. I still believe in Simunovic. So until then, as you say, we need someone in the midfield just to pull the strings. I hope Rogic would be that, and it kind of tells me that Rodgers doesn't really fancy him if he's not playing, and
it's weird. I don't know. Yeah. Like I just feel as if I would love to see him given a shot. Like people keep saying, "Oh, he only lasts 60 minutes." Well, just fucking get him in the game and make him play 90 minutes. No. Make him play 90 minutes the next match as well.
Or just play him for 60 minutes, then sub him and I'll bring him on as a sub. Like I don't know. I just think that Rogic has something that no one else in that team. Like that's kind of the position we're looking for. That number 10. That's what Johansson's playing tonight. That's the position we're looking for. That Scott Allen, Rogic, they've not quite done it. But I really want Rogic to do it. But you're right. We need someone in the middle to pull the strings, thread the balls through to the strikers, give the service because there's a massive gap There's no middle. And then, as you say, someone on the left, because Forrest wasn't fucking that good tonight, to be honest. And Armstrong can go in the bin. Like, he's control of the league. Get him to fuck, man.
In Forest news, I don't know if you saw, Andy Pingu from the Huddle Board was claiming that James Forrest is going to be signing a new contract next week. So I don't know how you feel about that, but
I'm not very happy because he's in quite an unforgiving position with being a winger. You're either hot or cold. There's no like in between. But I don't know. We could do better than him.
I think for a start, I think Forrest, if he plays, he needs to be playing on his right foot.
Yeah.
Because he's not an inside forward. He's an old school winger. And I just think on his left foot, like in that game, he just looked totally ineffective. It's not his position. But I don't know. Like if we get him on reduced terms, or we get him on the same terms that he was on, then maybe it's all right. Maybe we can make money down the line from him. But I don't know. Another kind of miscellaneous news. One guy that was live tweeting the game tonight was Amido fucking Balde.
As in
the actual Amido Balde.
Oh, fucking hell, that's amazing.
So he was tweeting about the game. It was brilliant.
I never knew that.
But so speaking of Twitter, let me just move on to some of the other feedback we got. Bobby Dazzler at Bobby D67 wrote in and said, Dembele, movement off the ball was good and fine set of cojones, taking the penalty. Hail, hail. Yeah, I think that was his best the best glimpses we had of him when he came on there, just getting the ball down off his chest, touching it to other players, bringing other players into the game. I think he did that really well when he came on.
Yeah, and it's like we've seen him and Griffiths play alongside each other maybe 4 games. One of them was against the Imps. Maybe they played twice against the Imps, and then last week I forget, but they played a game. I think it was against Maribor, or I think it was one of those other teams in Slovenia, where I think he had just signed, and you could see tonight that kind of playing off each other, the wee flicks and all that. They were doing the exact same in that first game, but we haven't seen it since.
Yeah.
So hopefully they have it in them to have that sort of energy to move the ball around, and they know where each other are. That kind of Stokes and Hooper thing that they had.
Aye.
But I mean, obviously we were speaking about Dembele, and some people are writing him off, and I was not giving him a hard time. But I was like, he really needs to get his finger out. But I'm really, really happy that he scored. It's quite significant that he gets a goal in a big game, and that should really give him the confidence, as Bobby Dazzler said, and as I said earlier, like the balls to step up and take a penalty when Griffith scored one 45 minutes before, and he's still there.
Aye.
It's like says a lot.
Yeah. Chris at Chris1888 said, and I'm going to say this exactly how it's written. Yes. I think we pretty much agree with that.
Aye.
And the last one is from Jamie, who is at Rock and Roll Star 13. He said, "Do you guys think Colo starts every game now? He looked a class act."
He did look. I mean, he looked very calm and collecting the ball, and he's fast as well. And but let's be honest, he's a fucking unit. He looked fat, but he
did look
move,
fat
man.
in a muscular way, though.
He can shift it, but I don't know if he starts every game. Like let him get up to speed. But O'Connell was great. Like I'm really, really, really impressed with O'Connell. So we have quite a good dilemma in our hands with regards to picking the back forward, because Boyata can't be far off. That's been like 2 months. Yozo has been fucking, I don't know, 2 years. Well, however long Simunovic has been out for, but he has to be back soon. I seen that Simunovic put a video on Twitter last week of him training. Did you see that video, the Ole video? Where he's like hitting the bar, he keeps hitting the bar. So he can't.
Maybe just focus on defending, Yozo. Maybe just focus on defending.
Hitting the crossbar doesn't really do that much. You're supposed to score or stop the ball going in the other net. But yeah, it's a good dilemma. It's a good problem to have.
I think for me it's O'Connell and Touré until someone comes back. Like I would rather have O'Connell and Touré in there than Touré and Lustig, for example.
Yeah.
So I would get the two of them in. If it's going to be 3-man defence, then okay. But I think Sviatchenko's probably still another few weeks away as well. So.
Oh fuck! I forgot Sviatchenko even existed there. And I was like, so we've got. I was like, we'll get rid of Ambrose, and that leaves us 4 decent centre halves. And Sviatchenko's an instant start. Sviatchenko, Touré. When the time comes, that has to be it. And then O'Connell, I don't know, and Yozo and Boyata, I don't know how it's going to work. Bear in mind, Yozo's still like 21, 22. O'Connell's probably the same, and Boyata can't be far off that. So it really depends on what they want to do. But yeah, there's still like 3.5 weeks to the transfer window. So let's see.
Yeah, until it's slammed shut.
Yep.
Yeah. So that was everything from Twitter tonight. So I think that'll do us for the episode as well. So again, thanks for downloading. Thanks for subscribing, shit like that. Good feedback we've been getting on the huddle board and on Twitter and stuff. So much appreciated. And I think our next episode will probably be a week tonight. When is the next Champions League? Is it in a week or is it 2 weeks?
No, it's the 16th, 17th and 23rd, 24th. It's a fucking pain in the ass because I'm at a wedding in middle of England, Surrey, somewhere on the 24th. So there's a whole raft of fucking cunts that were at the game with me tonight. We're all going to this wedding. We're just like, let's just pray we're on the Tuesday and we can go into London and this and that. But yeah, there's a break next week, and then it starts back to back 2 weeks in a row.
And on Sunday we've got Hearts at Tynecastle.
Hearts away at Tynecastle, yeah. So that's a spicy start to the season.
I think it's Hearts, Aberdeen, and Rangers within the first few 4 or 5 games.
And then Inter Milan and Samagen Inter Milan, and also Motherwell in the League Cup, and also just the 2 qualifiers for the number 1 club cup on the planet.
Get the fucking Colts in there, man. Get them doing the League Cup duty.
Yeah.
Right, cool. Cheers.